Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. And we're live. And I am so excited. Today's guest is a fellow technology marketer, but he is a data marketing leader. We're going to talk a lot about data today. And the good news is, from the Boston area, fellow fan of the Boston sports teams, aka #winners. Everyone just tuned off at this point. There's only a few people left listening to the podcast.
Yeah, we don't want to upset our audience.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Who else? B2B tech marketing. He's been doing it for over 25 years. Demand Gen, before it was even called Demand Gen. He is the vice president of product and solution marketing at InsideView, a cool company we're going to talk about. Joe Andrews, how are you, sir?
I am great. Thanks for having me, Casey. Excited to be here and talk all about data with you.
Yeah, man. The theme really is around data preparedness, getting things ready. I think a lot of times marketing can be like, there's ready, aim, fire. We're like, fire, ready, aim. We kind of mess the order up, and data is so important. I think we kind of overlook that. So what I want to do here is pass you, this is heavy, but you can take this. It's Thor's hammer. Okay. And take that and smash a myth for me, some bogus marketing strategy or some kind of craziness you're hearing out there that's totally not right. Or maybe people are just confused. They don't know the truth.
Yeah. Well, one that I saw really recently is just around confidence around data.
Okay.
You might ask a marketer or a seller, how confident are you in your data? They might say, oh, it's 50-50, or we've got this, or data's never perfect, but we're in pretty good shape. Well, I just saw a new stat from Forrester that says 12% of B2B marketers are highly confident in the quality of their data. That's really eye-opening to me. And that's, I know we're preaching to the choir here, but really the focus on how do you improve your data quality. And we're going to get into not only how you do it, but why is it so important? Why is it such an impact on the business?
Interesting. When it comes down to it, I get that. We're just not confident in it. I know one time I inherited 12,000 records from, probably 12 years ago, and the company thought they were all still valid. And I think sometimes we just kind of blind eye toward data because we think, oh man, it's crazy out there.
Did you say 12 years ago?
Yeah. Well, it's like you inherit data that was in an old CRM and it's been around. It's like, oh, we sold this deal, 8 or 9 years ago. You're like, probably none of those records are accurate at this point.
Right. Exactly. We went through a major purge of our database a few years ago, and we basically purged anything that was, minimum 3 years or older. And then we prioritized anything that was active within a year.
Oh, cool.
So we really focused on the recency, and, we have well over a decade of data in our history.
So you kept only the 3-year window, and then you focused on the 1 year active.
Exactly.
That makes sense. It probably sounds scary though. So we smashed the fact that we're confident in the data.
Yeah.
What else were you seeing out there?
I mean, another big myth is around alignment, sales and marketing alignment specifically. This is a topic that InsideView often talks about, because what we do is enabling better sales and marketing execution. It all starts with the data.
Right.
What we did a survey about a year ago to sales and marketing decision makers, and data, believe it or not, or lack of agreement on target accounts was the highest source of misalignment between sales and marketing leaders. And that was absolutely surprising to us. Just that we didn't expect that it wouldn't be up there, but for it to be the number one source of sales and marketing leaders not being aligned was just a big takeaway for us.
Why do you think that was number one?
I just think that there's a lot of there's a lot of subjectivity around other factors. For example, a couple of the other factors are communication. So how often, how well companies or sales and marketing teams are communicating with each other, also super important, something that InsideView focuses on ourselves. That the right level, the right threshold may be, may be subjective, or may be different for different companies. Another key factor was around metrics. How are sales and marketing leaders measured? For example, sales definitely measured on revenue.
Right.
Marketing historically has been focused on leads, quantity, more of the top of that funnel. We'll probably get more in depth in this conversation on the funnel itself, but so there's a big separation between those metrics, and we've seen more and more marketers start to be measured by pipeline or opportunity value, further down the pipeline, I should say.
Right.
But those are the right balance there may be more subjective. But data is black and white. You either, if you have a named account that a sales rep owns and is focused on, if that's not on marketing's radar and vice versa, then there's a huge disconnect. So it's interesting to see that was the number one source of misalignment, but it's something that was music to our ears because we help our customers focus on that and improve that. We fix that.
I guess it's the root of all the problems too. If you can't even align on who you should be going after, then all the leads you're ever going to send over are going to come back to you, or they're going to just be rated poorly.
Exactly.
We found this, no, I didn't
talk to a lot of sales and marketing leaders, and I'm sure, Casey, you've been around the industry for a while. In the old days, sales would come to marketing and say, in B2B, here are the accounts we want to focus on. And generally they were selected by heuristics, knowing, that there's something good about an account that a sales leader wants to go after or assign to one of his or her reps. Maybe it's historical performance, maybe it's relationship, maybe it's recency. We just had something go on. And then sales would dictate those accounts, and marketing would be, quote unquote, forced to comply with that. And often they didn't, right? Because again, if marketing's focused on raising overall lead volumes, they're gonna focus on anything that anyone who raises their hand and comes in as a lead, and the two may be very different. Nowadays, we're seeing marketing and sales leaders are working together collaboratively to figure out who are the right accounts to go after, and then who are the right people at those accounts to go after. So it's much more of a collaborative approach. Most businesses, don't have it solved, but there's an awareness and a willingness to work together and make it better.
I was going to say, as it should be, but any sense for how many people actually know what their target market is? People don't necessarily know if their data is good. The number one misalignment issue is the wrong target. Are we just generally confused about who we should be going after?
So, another thing that InsideView does to help companies out is figure out who are the right targets and people to go after. And the meaning of right is an account, an opportunity that matches with who's an ideal customer prospect or prospect. So basically, if you define your ideal profile of who to go target, and then you can, based on your best customers, and best can mean different things to different companies, and then go figure out who are all the available targets in the market to go after that look just like the best ones. That's ideal state. And last year, actually, Serious Decisions, renowned marketing and sales operations research firm, added this layer to, I think, most of your audience is familiar with the demand waterfall classic.
We'll kind of catch people up if you haven't heard of it.
Yeah. So demand waterfall is basically the funnel, the pipeline process, and it's broken down by different stages. everything from awareness down to driving closed won
Sure.
revenue. And it's meant to be a process guideline for B2B marketers and sellers and operate people in operations to support the business processes aligning to those things. Anyway, long story short, there up until last year had never been the notion of understanding your total addressable market. And
Huh.
so they added this layer called target demand, which
Interesting.
indicates all of the so-called units or available opportunities that a company should go after. And it's the starting point. So back to your question, I know I'm long-winded here, but the question of, what percentage of companies actually know that? We asked that in our survey,
Okay.
and more than half of companies, more than 50%, don't regularly assess their target market. About a quarter of them do it on an ad hoc basis or annual basis. But our best practice guidelines are that a company start there and they do it on a regular basis. Back to what you said earlier, data is not a set it and forget it exercise.
Right. Right. So you got to revisit it though, huh? Is your
Yeah.
ideal buyer changing essentially, and you got to just stay up with it?
Yeah. Anytime a company has a change in their product set, so if
Mm,
you're a technology company and you're launching new software capabilities, or you're launching new products that really
yeah.
cuts across any industry, your target buyer likely has changed.
Right.
In the profile of that ideal account that you want to go after has likely changed. Um,
Interesting. Any
Additionally,
change? Yeah.
yeah, if the market landscape changes, the competitors who are out there, the way that you're positioning against those, that could change your ideal buyer profile at any time.
That makes sense.
As the market evolves, as you evolve. So the need to revisit that continuously is definitely a best practice.
Okay, that makes sense. It kind of lines up too. I was chatting with Ellen Naylor on win loss, and she talks about not just, and Parmalee too, Eastman, not just doing it once. They do like buyer research. They'll go out and interview them and that kind of thing. And they were saying, don't just do that once, but stay up with your buyers and talk to them quarterly. And it makes sense here. Think about who is your target audience, and keep that discussion going. So it's not just like you were handed some target audience from 12 years ago or whatever it is, and then you're just kind of carrying that forward. That makes sense to keep circling around to it.
Exactly. So when we talk about your total addressable market or your ideal targets,
Yeah.
because data is constantly changing, you may have the set of all of the perfect target accounts and people within those companies defined once, but if you're not updating that at least once a year, ideally, a couple times a year, or some companies we know do it quarterly, then you're not capturing and keeping up to date all of the opportunities that you're going after. And
Yeah.
this sort of gets down to the heart of the focus on data quality that we're going to talk about here today, which is, the purpose of this is really to make your sales and marketing execution better,
Okay.
and that optimizes your revenue engine. And if you have, there's a stat, another serious decision stat. Typically in B2B, about 25% of a database is inaccurate at any time. That's,
Seriously.
yeah, accounts or
Oh gosh.
or people.
Who said that? Who's the 25?
That was serious decisions,
Those guys
and
still doing consulting?
they do a lot of good consulting.
No,
And
I know they got into like doing the service providing at some point too. I don't know if they're still doing that. It's kind of weird.
I'm
They got into their
actually not familiar with that part of
okay.
their offering set, but I think, but back to the data quality,
Yeah.
if a quarter of your data is incorrect at any given time, you're not just wasting motions in terms of campaigns that are going nowhere, but you're wasting salespeople's time who are
Yeah.
focusing on those
Yeah.
opportunities, and they're not going to lead anywhere if the data is not correct,
That's a good
or
point.
you're, best case, you're going to hamper their ability to execute, and that's just going to lead to slowdown in revenue.
Yeah, at the least. So I'm pretty freaked out now. 25% of my data is wrong. I don't know who my target audience is. Um, all the things are messed up. So let's talk about cleaning it, fixing it. How do you make your data ready? How do you help me, Joe, help me
Yeah.
get out of the situation.
So a lot of the customers that we work with go through a fairly consistent sequential process.
Okay.
The names of the steps may be different, but typically companies will start with a self-assessment. So they'll look at how unclean or clean is their data.
Okay.
What's missing from
Okay.
records. So typically a lot of records, account records, people records may be missing information,
Yeah.
maybe missing address, or on people maybe missing email addresses, so you
Right.
don't have a way to contact them. So start with a self-assessment.
A
And then,
self-assessment. So you're doing it to yourself. I was gonna say, you're using tools for this. You just kind of downloading Excel.
yeah, so you can use tools.
Okay.
You could use a tool like InsideView, for example, to diagnose, how many fields you're missing on
Sure.
specific records, what percentage of account data on, say, number of employees or revenue counts are invalid, and that would give you a baseline to say, okay, we have a big problem. It's
Got it.
25%, 50%, et cetera. So you could also use a service provider who would do this on
For you. Yeah.
more of a hands-on approach.
It's
Um,
funny. I'm like trying not to make it sound like an infomercial for Inside View or Cheshire Impact, but
yeah, or Cheshire. I mean,
these like questions keep coming up, and it's
you guys
important.
face this a lot as well with your
Yeah, we do.
clients.
Yeah.
And so, what do you tell clients as a first step to self-assess or diagnose?
Well, I'm on the same page. I mean, you
Yeah,
gotta figure out where the gaps are, right? And I think before even just diving in and fixing, you gotta just understand how bad is the problem. Of course, if it's 25% on average, then we got some work to
yeah.
do. But yeah,
Some are really
self-assessment.
high, some aren't so bad.
Yeah.
And then the next step is to clean.
Okay.
And there you want to, again, either through a service provider or through
Sure.
using tools like InsideView, actually address the data. And that includes updating incorrect information.
Yeah.
So if a company is out of business,
Right.
they need to get marked that way. If they're missing information, if they've moved. Another amazing stat is the Bureau of Labor and Statistics says that 2.7 million people change jobs every month. So put that into perspective. That's about, if you extrapolate that over a year,
Huh.
it's about 30 million or so people per year. That's 1/10 of the United States population.
Yeah, I was just
Changing,
gonna Google it. What is the population in the U.S.?
I don't know exactly. I think it's about 320 million, 330
Okay,
million.
I'm gonna Google and see. You
Google
said
it.
how many? You said 300 and what?
330 is my guess.
Okay. What did you say the first time though? You said 20?
320, 320,
Okay. You just
330.
bracketed it perfectly. 325 million.7.
There you go. That's not bad. I always had in my head for
That was
some reason
really good.
300 million, and
Yeah.
then I assumed it's grown a little since the last time I saw it.
Right, right. We like learned the stat and I don't know,
Yeah.
somewhere, and then 5 years later it's a little bit more.
So 1/10 of the United States population changes jobs every month. I mean,
Right.
every year. Um, that's a significant amount. Um, and so back to that cleansing process, if you have a whole bunch of people who are,
Yeah.
or contacts who are attached to an account
Yep.
that you're selling to, um, you want to make sure that those people are correct, that they're currently employed there, that you have the right contact information for them, that you have the right titles.
Right.
People also change roles within companies.
True.
Um, so someone who might have been an ideal prospect for you may no longer be the ideal prospect. So keeping a handle on that is really important. So that's sort of phase two, is the cleansing process. And then you want to also fill in missing information.
Okay.
InsideView talks a lot about firmographics, like industry, codes, number of employees, revenue ranges, because that helps B2B companies identify whether or not a company is within their ideal, ideal customer band.
Yeah.
And it also helps companies with things like territory assignment.
Sure.
If you have a sales team that is separated by size, so you have small business team, you have enterprise team, and you have a cut line somewhere of number of employees, let's say it's 500 or 1,000 employees. If a business was 400 employees last year and they were assigned to your small business team, but now they have 600 employees this year or 800 employees, and you need to reassign them to your enterprise team,
Right.
you want to be aware of that data. So filling in information that is missing, refreshing, updating information that is no longer valid, that's all part of the clean process.
Got it.
And then what you want to do is you want to set up processes for enriching and appending data to new records that come into your system. So you do a one-time clean, like of your
clean
entire
of what you have. Yeah.
And I'm sure you do this as a service with your clients before migrating, to Salesforce or to Pardot. We did this ourselves, but then you want to, once you have your house in order, you have clean data. You want to ensure that the processes keep it as clean as possible.
Right. I mean,
never going to be 100%.
Yeah, but then tomorrow it's dirty again, right?
Right. Let's say you have inbound leads. Every company gets some leads, amount of leads through their website, and you have leads who are raising their hand saying, "I'm interested in what you do." But typically, when you ask a lead to register on your website, best practice is say you're only going to collect a few fields. Ideally, it's 3. Definitely less than 7. But you might collect email address, name, and company. And then how do you ensure that that lead gets routed correctly, number one, and gets qualified? And so you need to add information. You need to append things like the master account or the company name. You want to append the firmographics like employee size, employee range, revenue range, and you want to be able to validate that, hey, this is an account that, based on what we have going on in our named account data over here, is someone we should be talking with, and it should be routed to Diane, who's the sales rep on this account. We learned in our past, we had a famous example where a subsidiary of a large strategic account that was a good customer of ours came in through a web form, and we didn't match it and enrich it correctly, and then we routed it incorrectly to a small business team rep, and they were not able to, basically caused an embarrassing situation, because we should have known all along that this was really a subsidiary of a much larger company.
Right. Yeah.
So that's something we tell our clients all the time is,
and you don't want to treat like a star client like a brand new, small startup you've never worked with before. Yeah, it's like, who are you again? God, I just bought like 300 grand from you last month. You're gonna treat me like you're gonna cold call me from your small business team? Like, come on.
But if I get a Casey at CheshireImpact.com in my automated system, how is it going to know that you're someone that we have activity with, or that it needs to get routed to a certain sales segment?
Yeah, right to the top, man. Oh boy, it's Casey. Let's get him
Casey,
to the source.
We need the bat phone.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll help you feel a little bit better too. We bumped into a client that bad data management here. They were I don't know what the opposite of enrich is, but they were doing this,
Hmm.
and they were when someone
In poor?
yeah yeah right yeah in poor they when someone said unsubscribe me, they deleted their email address. When someone was uh not there or something, they deleted the phone number. And then the worst case happened when someone, if someone wasn't there, they would write next to their first name, like moved or isn't here, in their first name field, right?
Oh,
And
wow,
so,
that's bad.
but then the worst case happened when someone died and they wrote like Mark is dead as their
Oof.
first name. And wouldn't you know, an email campaign went out to the people and to Mark, who was not there, got it forwarded to his coworkers, who
Oof.
had to then see Mark is dead on their first line of the email. Like, oh,
I'm sure that's one they wanted to take back.
that is a rough day right
That is a
there.
very
But
rough
yeah,
day.
it's so important to not only clean, but then tell me about the processes. How do you keep it clean once it's, how is it a process? What do you do? What do you advise people to do at that point?
Yeah, it's definitely a process. We work with clients to understand, first of all, what are their processes for making changes to the data.
Okay.
So where are the data, being changed? So like a sales rep, do they have access to change a master account record?
Right.
Um, like that mistake was human error. So
Right.
you have to be able to
Squash that.
understand where those are coming from, and then maybe improve the process
Right.
to fix that. You want to understand what systems are housing this data, because
Ah,
typically, that's another thing when you're doing the cleanse process is, let's say you do it in CRM, so you're doing it in the core of where your most transactional sales system is, but then you also have to go out and look, is that same data in marketing automation? Do I need to update it there?
right.
Is there another system like, ERP or accounting system downstream when, we have customers and we have to bill them, we have to make sure that that information is correct. So there are a lot of places where this information gets written, and you have to make
Right.
sure that you're solving for all of them. And then, just as important in the process is understanding where all the channels for inputting new data. So we talked
Right.
about the web um, for inbound leads. We talked about sales reps. We talked about marketing campaigns and responses. Let's say we do an email campaign and we get undeliverable email addresses. Are we then closing the loop and going back and updating those contact records in those systems with the right email
Right.
addresses?
Right. Making
You
sure
know, we,
everyone is on the
we,
same page. Yeah.
yeah. And when you talk with large customers, enterprises that may have multiple divisions, they may be using separate instances of CRM and marketing automation and all of these systems. And so any time that you have multiple systems, and you're a much larger organization, the processes become more complex, and it becomes a lot
Right.
more difficult to make these changes.
Absolutely. You got to survey all of that. I like the idea of just taking a step back and looking at what's modifying your data, where is the data stored, understanding the relationships between different systems, especially as it gets larger, understanding that your marketing automation system may update a record or might not.
Hmm.
The most accurate information might be somewhere, but not have the ability, the permissions to get to where it needs to be.
Exactly.
Hmm. Good stuff. Are those the steps? I have assess, clean, enrich.
Mm. And then we have basically expand. So back to that notion of TAM and your target demand layer.
Yeah.
uh, where are you missing records? So if you are focusing on certain marketing go-to-market segments, um, you want to take that ideal customer profile, and that could be based on a number of criteria. And you want to see what is the superset of all the accounts in the
Right.
market, because you may be focusing really well, but you may be missing 2/3 or maybe missing 90% of your total addressable market.
Right.
Or who is in your named account strategy today may not be representative of who your best targets are.
Right.
So you want to basically map the processes to map your existing database against a large third-party database like InsideView, to look at where are there gaps in your account coverage,
Right.
and then go fill those in.
I like that we're assessing, we're cleaning, we're enriching, then we're going out and getting more, right? I think sometimes we do that in reverse order. We're getting more data before we've cleaned up what's already there. We don't even know if we're going out and getting the right stuff in the first place. So I love that order. I think that's an important order to put the expand in there for sure, but it comes after you've got your house in order. So you can add, now you can add more data to it, because this is adding as well. It's almost like we've cleaned, but now we're enriching. We're filling in more gaps. We're doing a better job adding records in there, and they're not dirtying up the database. So now let's add in even more records, but we've got the protections in place to protect us from adding the bad stuff back in.
Yeah, and in many cases, it may not be more records. It may be better records.
Really? Okay.
So I wasn't going to get into account-based marketing, but it is a popular topic these days with B2B sellers and marketers, and the notion being that instead of going after everyone, you want to go after a smaller set of high quality targets, opportunities. And typically for B2B companies, it means having a named account focus on hundreds, not thousands and thousands.
Right.
InsideView's case, we have 300 roughly named accounts in our ABM program.
Interesting.
And it goes back to who looks like an ideal customer, like our ideal customer profile.
Right.
And that changes over time. So we, to my point about quality versus quantity, you as a B2B marketer or seller want to reassess periodically. Maybe it's once a year. It's once a year in our case. Who are the named accounts we want to prioritize?
Right. Who are those top ones? That first layer, level 1, level A.
Exactly.
And you've got 300. And what's interesting about that number is that, it basically needs to change based on how much love you can show them. I mean, your top group gets the top. They get the most custom. They get the most reach out. So you kind of expand or contract that based on the capabilities of marketing to address those people. So it's cool to hear that you've got 300, kind of like 300 Spartans out there, but 300 and
the 300
working on those guys. That's cool. That's really cool. Well, I wanted to, get you on here, and I hope we're not getting too technical for folks, but I mean, it's learning about data and the way to approach it is so important. But one of the things that's happening at least in the Salesforce ecosystem is around data.com, and it's shutting down and it's going bye-byes. And what's the skinny on that? It's just going away. Why would they do that? And then what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, great topic, Casey. So this is something that Cheshire, Impact, and InsideView are both focused on.
Totally.
So let me take a step back. So many of you who are Salesforce customers, you may or may not be a customer of data.com, which has been a Salesforce offering for a while. So Salesforce started data.com as a data service within Salesforce a number of years ago. And what they did was they first acquired a company called Jigsaw that was focused on contacts, people. And it was basically a way for salespeople to trade contacts. Casey's my customer. I'm going to put Casey into the system and I get another lead. And then they realized that the strength or the quality of the contacts alone was not was not good enough, because you can imagine there's, high propensity for those contacts to become out of date very quickly
What
for
we
all the
say,
reasons we just
30
talked
million,
about.
right? 30 million moved.
For all the reasons we just talked about.
Jeez.
So then they partnered with Dun & Bradstreet, D&B, to add the account data, the firmographic information.
Okay.
So they had been selling data.com as a combination of that account data plus contacts for a while. And they would often bundle it in with Salesforce contracts. So customers, may or may not have been actively using data.com, but in many cases they have it as a part of their Salesforce subscription. About a year plus ago, Salesforce made the decision that they didn't want to be in the data business. They wanted to leave that to partners.
Sure.
And so they decided to sunset data.com completely. Now they're giving it a little bit of an off-ramp time. So the actual dates are this coming July, they will stop renewing all data.com contracts.
Okay.
So if you're an existing data.com customer, you will not be able to renew after this July. And then the following July, a year and a half from now, in 2020, they will shut down the service completely.
Jeez.
So the service will cease to exist. Now, in case you're thinking, well, I have, a year and a half to use it. The other thing to consider is that they're not investing in updating the data to keep it current.
Oh no.
So go back and think about everything we just talked about, 5% per month, data decay rate, 25% of the database being inaccurate.
Yeah.
That's if you're keeping it up regularly. They haven't touched it, in at least over a year.
Yikes.
So the data we've heard from customers, I'm sure you have as well, Casey, that from clients, that the data quality has definitely degraded.
Yikes.
So if you're a Salesforce customer that is using data.com or relying on it for the things we talked about, setting sales territories, enriching data, making sure that data is accurate for your sellers and your marketing team to go out there and execute, then today you're definitely at a loss.
Wow.
So what InsideView is doing, and what Cheshire Impact are doing, are helping our clients make the transition off of data.com.
Yeah.
And InsideView has a very easy apples to apples package. Essentially, there are two components to data.com. The first one is data.com Clean, which is all about cleansing and refreshing the data, the accounts, the contacts.
Kind of the steps we were talking about, right?
All the steps we were talking about. InsideView has an offering that is a clean data.com Clean replacement. Does exactly the same thing, but with a much higher quality data. Largely because we've been actively refreshing it. Right. And then the other offering for data.com was called data.com Prospector. And that is a tool for sales reps who are inside of Salesforce to get intelligence on their prospects, on their customers, and go out and prospect and sell. Right. And again, it's based on the quality of the data. InsideView has a very comparable offering with clean and accurate and robust data that we would be very happy to help you migrate off of.
Got it.
So that's the skinny.
That's the gist. I think we're actually doing a webinar together, right?
We're doing a webinar on this at the end of the month. I think it's March 27th, but we'll get the word out on how to register for that.
We'll put a link in the show notes too for anyone that's
perfect. But I think the bottom line, Casey, is that there are a lot of data.com customers who are customers of Salesforce. Mm-hmm. They are probably sitting on the fence based on conversations we've had, because we go to our own customers who are Salesforce customers, and also prospects, and say, hey, ask them, did you know data.com is going away? In most cases, either they didn't know, or they were aware, they'd gotten a notification from Salesforce, but they weren't jumping to do anything about it yet. It wasn't
Right.
their top priority. And then when we clicked into, well, did you know that the data is degrading, and that this is basically an opportunity to help your sales and marketing teams today be more effective, and we're here to help you make an easy transition, then they're very interested to have that
Yeah.
conversation. So we
Yeah,
would
it makes
encourage,
sense, right?
if you're in that boat, let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah. It makes sense, especially if 5 million of these puppies are moving. They're just moving. I don't think in that number includes people getting fired or people, I don't know, but moving jobs, man, oh man. So, I have a question. Who are you? How did you become this data czar? Like,
Great.
take us back to like little Joe.
Little Joe grew up outside of Boston,
There we
Massachusetts. We
go.
covered that. You're wearing your Shamrock Celtics hat.
Yep. We got a little lucky
Ironically,
hat on.
I'm going to the Celtics Warriors game tonight.
Nice.
So I moved out to the Bay Area, about 20 years ago. Still Boston blood as far as sports teams.
How's
But
that being a Boston fan out west?
well, it's been pretty amazing.
Okay.
Ironically, all these championships that Boston teams have won in the last decade plus have been while I've been out here. So I've been rooting from afar.
Nice.
But I went to college outside of Boston, Brandeis University. I after school landed at a
What'd you go
software
to
company.
school for?
It was liberal arts, economics, business degree. I
Economics.
always knew I wanted to focus on business. I had a summer internship with a software company, a
Okay.
spin-off, Lotus Development Corp. If you
Wow,
know
like
that,
Lotus Notes and stuff?
Lotus Notes.
Wow.
That was based, out of Cambridge, Mass. And so I started working with them while I was in, undergrad and then after school. And I focused I was doing a little bit of everything, operations, sales, marketing. I spent a few years in sales development. I was an account executive, and I did some account management as well. And then made the transition over to marketing.
Hmm.
So my first marketing job was focused on this. You had mentioned it in the tee-up. Before there was demand gen or digital marketing, we
Right.
called it direct marketing. This was
Yeah.
pre-internet era. I'm clearly dating myself, but our software company did a large customer acquisition program that was a series of regional seminars or events where
Sure.
we would invite people to come and learn about how we can help them.
Wow.
And so it was all through direct mail. We did over 200 events per year, and we would do all direct mail to get our attendees there.
Got
And
it.
so data, we had a very high focus on data throughout that process. We would buy lists. There were list brokers who would feed us information.
Did you have to go to a back alley to get those lists back in the day? Or?
No, there were a lot of publishers who would publish. We called them direct
Oh,
response lists.
yeah. Okay.
So if if you subscribed to, I don't know, CRM magazine,
Sure.
you would be on this subscriber list, and
Right.
we would pick the publication subscribers based on interest with what we sold.
Hmm.
And then we also used back then they called it a compiled database, right, which was D&B. And this was the backbone of the firmographic information.
Got it.
But there wasn't a lot of flexibility in terms of, online, in terms of direct data sources that we could
Sure.
tap into. So we did everything through list brokers and through a service bureau. So they would
Right.
take our data, and we would do this every quarter, sometimes more frequently. They would help us define who our invitation list was, and we would refine that based on results. We would closely look at response rates, and we were looking at the list being, the list source being an important variable, as well as the creative, like what we were actually saying in our invitation, the format of the invitation, a whole bunch of variables.
Look at all those variables.
We would
Nice.
test these because direct mail was very expensive. if it cost upwards of $1 per piece, and we're sending out millions of these every year, every little increase in response rate and conversion rate made a ton of sense in terms of improving our effectiveness, as well as every small incremental decrease in cost. So
Right.
fast forward, 25 years, in that time I've worked for a number of software companies, transitioned over to more product and solution marketing, which is less focused on the demand generation execution tactics, but more on the strategy of understanding buyers, who
Right.
we're selling to, and how to reach them. What are the channels that we reach them through? What's the message? How do we position ourselves, both the
Right.
product offering, the company? How do we enable our sellers? So there's a lot of focus again on that sales and marketing alignment. So it's really, for me, come full circle. And as now I'm working for InsideView, a company that directly supports people doing all these things that I've done in the
Right.
past.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool.
Having
Yeah.
that understanding of what they do, why they do it, how we can help them do it better, is become really important.
So cool. So cool. And then tell me about Africa, because we were chatting earlier.
Africa, wow, that's pulling random facts out of the ether.
Yeah.
Um, about
Got
a
my
year
eye on you,
ago,
Joe. Got my eye on you. We know things about you.
about a year ago, I went on a photo safari. So one of my hobbies is I'm a photographer,
Okay.
wildlife and landscape photographer, and I went with my wife on a photo safari to Botswana in South Africa.
Wow.
Incredibly amazing. Definitely a trip of a lifetime.
Botswana. What is even like going there?
Um, well, it's Botswana is we were in northern Botswana on the Okavango Delta, which is this amazing place that catches a tremendous amount of water
Huh.
coming from rainfalls and rivers up north. And it's basically a feeding and wildlife sanctuary for a ton of different animals. It's an
Jeez.
incredibly large space, and there are all this wildlife and camps that are located throughout. So you basically fly into these camps, and they take you out on four-wheel drive, and you're observing animals in their natural
Mm.
habitats. Everything from the big five animals, the big cats, lions,
Oh, you one of those cars that
leopards,
had a roof on, right?
elephants, yeah,
None of those open
water
open air
buffalo.
cars or anything like that.
We were in an open air car.
How does it even happen?
Um,
How do you not get eaten?
different countries have different regulations. In
Ah,
Botswana, they have open air vehicles. So there were a few
jeez.
times when we would have. There was actually a hyena that brushed up alongside the car, so we could feel it sort of bumping the car. Another time, a hippo charged us. We were about 30 feet away, and we had to kick the car into high gear and move along.
Jeez. Was it a hungry hippo?
Hungry, hungry hippo. Have to bring us
Wow.
back. Yeah. No, it was incredible experience. Um,
Jeez.
so, it's Africa's like a 30-hour flight, multiple flights from where I am on the West Coast. And it's a lot of time and a lot of money, but if people in your audience are inspired by going and seeing, amazing wildlife in this beautiful place, I would encourage everyone to do that at some point in their lifetime.
You know, you have like photos online that we can check out of.
Yeah, I do. I could send you a link.
Yeah, yeah, we'll put that up. That'd be really cool to see. I've always wanted to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro and then maybe do a little safari afterward and kind of catch out the land.
Yeah, Kilimanjaro is supposed to be really cool. That's in Tanzania.
Yeah,
And I have not been over to East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya. That's another trip I want to do at some point.
yeah. Wow, it sounds like a lot of travel though. Long
It is a lot
flights.
of travel. It's hard to do, and I've got a family, wife, two boys who are 12 and 10, and they're busy and
They're
demanding
busy.
attention.
Inside View's
So
busy. Everyone's busy.
InsideView is busy.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
A lot of
You have
demands
to let
for
me know
time.
next time you head over there. We'll keep our eyes open for some photos, and you maybe come along Kilimanjaro and take some photos.
There are, I mean, the good news is there are a lot of national parks close to home in the U.S.
True.
That I tend to visit a lot more often.
Huh.
That's one of the things we're blessed with in the West.
That's true. I mean, Yosemite, there's some big, amazing
Yeah.
pictures.
Yellowstone, Yosemite,
Yeah.
both incredible.
Yeah. Is that photo behind you? Did you take that?
No, this is actually I'm in one of the InsideView conference
You're in the
rooms.
office. You should start giving them some of your artwork.
I should. That's a great idea.
I'm gonna get on. I'm
Um,
like, hey, Inside View, come on. You got a
a lot of
photographer in your midst.
these photos predated me, but this one was from someone who took a shot from the Marin Headlands overlooking San Francisco Bay, and you see the Bay
Yeah,
Bridge
that's
at
a
night.
great shot.
Really cool shot.
But it'd be great to start seeing your artwork just sort of start popping up over the office.
Awesome. We can put some screenshots up in our webinar, Casey.
Yeah, we'll do that. No, we'll have to start with that. That'll be, people are like, oh, this is going to be a boring data webinar. I'm like, no, let's start with shots of Africa.
Let's start with animals.
Botswana, bam. That'd be cool. Well, I don't know if you looked at the call, but thank you so much. This has been awesome. I mean, I've learned a bunch. I've got notes going on over here.
Fantastic.
And, yeah, I'm sure everyone else has learned too.
I hope it's been informative for everyone. And thank you for having me on. To summarize, data management is a really important topic. It's something that, all of InsideView and I know Cheshire Impact's clients, customers really care about.
True.
And we don't pretend to have all the answers. We learn a lot from our own customers. And we learn from our partners as well. And the important thing is that we continue the dialogue, that we continue to have the conversation as we learn from additional customers as situations change. And we're here to help you. So if any of these topics or bits of information today resonate, we'd love to have another conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And we look forward to carrying it forward again with you, Casey, on the webinar on the 27th.
Definitely. How about you throw out some links? Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And then also follow me on Twitter at AndrewsJoe. And we'll throw out some of the other contact links in the follow up.
Yeah, we'll put them in the show notes. It'll be awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks again. This has been cool. I guess I'll see you in a couple weeks for the webinar.
I'll see you in a few weeks, Casey.
Awesome, man. And for everyone else listening, if you learned something here about data or you're working with someone who needs to hear this message, then make sure you share this episode with them, tag them, shoot it over to them. And if you want to see our beautiful faces, hit it up on YouTube. But either way, get this content in their hands so that they can take some action on it and get some clean data that they can actually trust, have some confidence in. And for everyone else, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.